Greetings all, this is Eagle Scout from the server The Venture Co. I've been doing the Argent tournament dailies for quite a while now, and have noticed a lot of people really struggle with the jousting portion of it. These really aren't that hard as long as you know which button to spam, so that's what I'm going to show you today. First off, you have 6 abilities to choose from while on an Argent jousting mount. Thrust is the first one, and is bound by default to the 1 key on your keyboard. This is your close range melee attack. The important thing about this ability is that it does not share any cooldown with the other abilities, so you should always spam this while you have a hostile jousting opponent targeted. Your second ability is called Shield Breaker, which is bound to key number 2. Shield Breaker is your basic ranged ability that deals damage and removes 1 layer of defend from your target. Next is Charge, which is bound to key number 3. Charging causes your character to run quickly at your opponent and deals massive melee damage, and also removes 1 layer of defend. Bound to key number 4 is Defend. Using this grants you a buff that reduces damage taken by 30% and stacks up to 3 times, giving a total of 90% damage reduction. Basically, if you keep your shield at 3 charges and your opponent's at 0, you win. The next ability is called Refresh Mount, which is bound to key number 5. Using this will fully heal your mount, although it cannot be used in combat, so use it in between fights as needed. And bound to key number 6 is Duel, which will challenge another player to a jousting match. These really only determine who has the highest latency. However, winning your first one will grant you an achievement. Outside of that, there's really no reason to use this ability. Probably the largest factor in a jousting match is latency. Having poor latency makes it extremely difficult to defeat any of your opponents, so unless you're running an amazing computer, the first thing you should do is hit the escape key. Select Video, then Effects, and slide the top bar all the way to the left. This will make your game appear very foggy and pixelated, but will make it run very smoothly, and you can always return it to its normal position afterward. Okay, so I mentioned earlier you would have to spam certain buttons in order to joust effectively. There are 2 different combos to spam depending on how many charges of defend you have. If you have 3 out of 3 charges, then you want to spam the buttons 1, 2, and 3 all at the same time and let the game decide which one to actually use. Basically, this will use all of your aggressive abilities whenever you meet the criteria for them. If your defend ability falls below 3 charges, then your priority becomes to restore that, so switch to spamming only 1 and 4 until your shield is back up to 3 charges, then return to spamming 1, 2, and 3. So with that in mind, equip your lance and hop on a jousting mount. Make sure to use the defend ability to give yourself 3 charges of shields before challenging an opponent. Here are a few tips to remember while jousting any opponent. First off, use the mouse to turn and run by holding down the left and right buttons at the same time, and never stop moving. You should be running forward the entire time you're in combat. Try to run straight at your opponent, and when you pass him, simultaneously jump and turn to face him again, and repeat, all the while spamming the appropriate combo. Always use key bindings to use abilities 1 through 4, and never use the WASD keys to move or turn your character. The Q and E keys, however, can be used to strafe away from your opponent while still technically facing him, enabling you to use your ranged abilities. One thing to be aware of is that sometimes the computer players will use Shield Breaker and Charge at virtually the same time, causing you to lose 2 defend charges at once. I've noticed that the Night Elves seem to do this more frequently than any of the other races, so I'll try to lure this one into doing it to me. And there he goes. If this happens to you, just stay close to him so he can't use any of his ranged abilities to bring your shield down even further, and spam 1 and 4 until your shield is back up to full. This technique can also be used to kill Bone Guard commanders for the quest Battle Before the Citadel without the assistance of a group. Keep in mind, however, that Bone Guard scouts can remove your defend charges very quickly, so if one starts attacking you, ignore the commander and kill the scout as quickly as possible, then finish off the commander. Don't let the commanders get too far away from you, or they'll kite you into other mobs, which will kill you very quickly. If they start to run away, just find something to hide behind, like this little corner here, and they will run back to you. Also beware of phasing issues, such as that giant beetle that just popped out of nowhere. Those are pretty common in this area. If you still can't manage to bring an opponent down even following the advice on this video, either because your latency is too low or because you simply suck at jousting, you can always get the help of another player to use normal attacks on your target. If you do that, just focus on keeping your opponent's defend charges down, as those mitigate the damage done by regular abilities as well. This last piece of advice has nothing to do with jousting, but will help you with the Argent tournament quest Get Kraken, which requires you to throw spears at the Kraken as well as the Deepcallers who summoned it. All you have to do is put the macro somewhere in one of your action bars, and then left-click it to throw a spear at the Kraken, or right-click it to throw a spear at the Deepcaller. The macro will target either of them for you, and if you spam it, you will throw spears as soon as you're in range. If you manage to kill the Kraken, which usually requires 3 to 4 people spamming the left-click portion of the macro, a Kraken tooth will appear in your inventory, which you can turn in for even more gold, so make sure you have at least one open slot in your inventory before attacking it. The macro is posted in the video description for easy copying. And that is all the advice I have for the Argent tournament. I'd like to thank you for watching this video, and I hope it proves useful for some of you.